Hi, it's a pleasure to speak with you today about the newest employees in the workforce, Generation Z. Hi, I'm Dr. Susan Hanold, and I have the pleasure of speaking with you today, and I have such a passion for learning. Let me tell you a little bit about my background. I have 3 degrees in instructional design and leadership development. Part of my background, I started out in consulting with the Andersen Consulting, and then I transitioned to a practitioner role where I was a trainer, did organizational development, coaching, and executive leadership development. And of course, now I'm at ADP, where I love providing talent strategy with our clients and working with our service and sales leaders. My biggest legacy would be at Pizza Hut when I created the coaching model and the training program that is now taught at Yum University worldwide, still to this day. So now let's move to our exciting topic, talking about Generation Z. So we'll have 4 areas we're going to cover on our agenda today. What is happening in the labor market? How does Gen Z want to learn? And how do we develop Generation Z to be our future leaders? And then what does this mean for enterprise learning for you today? So let's start off with what's going on in the labor market. So generations in the labor market. There are baby boomers, Gen X, millennials, and Gen Z. And as you can see, where each one of them is peaking. So right now, Generation Z will peak in 2025 with 9 million. But as you look at the other generations, Generation Z is a smaller population. So it's going to make it very difficult for companies to attract this Gen Z. And learning and development will be a key retention factor and part of this. So if you look at sort of like a hourglass, you've got baby boomers, which there's a lot of them, but they're retiring now at a fast rate. Then you go into Gen X, and then you come into the millennials, the larger population, and then you come back in Gen Z as a very small population. So something to think about as you're creating your learning and development curriculum. So your multidimensional workforce. So it's multidimensional, and there are several generations that you're having to create training for in the workforce. So as you see on this slide here, it'll have it broken out by the ages on the bottom. So Generation Z is the ages 6 to 21. So many of them are just starting to enter the workforce. So how well do you know your workforce or your future learners? I would suggest reaching out to your HR business partners and asking them to run this data for you. Can they run a report to let you know where the demographics are by generation? So what's also important here is that two-way communication is very important to really engaging them and making sure you're providing the right content for them. Which leads you to, so how do I engage them? How do I know if I'm having the right content? Are they staying engaged? So there are 4 trends that you'll see in the workplace today around surveys. And there's 4 here. One, I'm seeing clients and the workforce develop better surveys. They're designing them differently. Secondly, they may also be using a mix of surveys. So they may be using the annual engagement survey and complementing it with pulse surveys. And the third way is looking at the survey data differently. So they're looking at it in all of the workforce data. So looking at retention, performance ratings, training attendance, turnover, sales and customer satisfaction. And then the fourth way is just increasing touch points or coaching culture you may hear. So looking for more frequent conversation and feedback opportunities. So the question is, what is your organization's strategy? What is ADP's strategy around this? So no longer is the annual engagement survey enough to get that real-time data and to get you that really good comprehensive view. So tenure and top companies. On this slide, you'll see on the right are the average time of years for employees, and these happen to be IT companies, stay in position. So right now it's trending about 2 years or less. So is that what you expected? And if you have those folks for a short amount of time, what's the right amount of training they need? And also, if you want to keep them longer. So Generation Z is a little bit different than millennials that had a job hopper market. They saw many of their parents lose their jobs, being unemployed, and so for them, they're a little bit more pragmatic. They want to stay longer at their companies. They're okay with working for larger companies, and this really will result in a steadier workforce for us. So what impact will this have on learning? And how does Gen Z want to learn? So Gen Z are not passive learners. They want to be highly engaged. They tend to be very career focused. They do not want to be passive, and they want to be part of the learning process. So they want to be part of it. So what you've seen, and we know this already, that Generation Z are very digital. They are used to mobile technology, and they're entrepreneur. A lot of them have already had their own businesses. In fact, 13% of Gen Zs have already started their own business. So they expect digital learning, and they want it to be available on demand. Pretty much they want to learn anytime they want and anywhere. So how do we engage them in the learning? So how do we design the training so it's going to work for them? So one, they learn by doing. So fast delivery of content with complex graphics. So they are kinesthetic, experiential, hands-on learners who prefer to learn by doing. Secondly, they want interactive multimedia. You know, they're used to things like World of Warcraft and Second Life. And also with their gaming background, they are used to learning things in levels. They want instant feedback. And they also, because they're multitasking that they're used to, they are wanting to have things in smaller bites. Additionally, because of this gaming experience, they want to learn by trial and error. So before they have to solve a problem, before they can get to that next level. They also appreciate sharing their opinions and learning in small groups. They like the question and answer sessions, Q&A. And they also want to be able to discover, curate, and manage the information that's given to them instead of just memorizing content. And then flexibility to learn is important to them also. They want options to choose from, and they want it personalized. So next, let's turn it over to how are we going to develop future leaders? So preparing Gen Z, they really want mentoring opportunities, want to get exposure to leaders, and they want to know how am I going to get promoted, and they also want those opportunities for exposure to challenge them within management. So finally, let's look at our next section, which is what does this mean for enterprise learning today? So as we look at the multi-generational workforce, Gen Z is no different than a lot of us. We all have some things in common. For example, we want to have challenging work. We want to have autonomy. We want to be valued and recognized for the hard work we do. And we want to be able to career and show progression and take on additional responsibilities. And we want to be engaged. The only place that Gen Z is really different is they're looking for stability, trust, equality, and corporate social responsibility. So what can you do and what can enterprise learning take? These are just a few tips, but one, they like online learning communities. They like webinars. They want to be a part of the experience. They do value social and mobile. But they, at the same point, want to have classroom. So it's not an all or nothing. It has to be in the right form for them. And then as much as you can get information on your demographics and your workforce will help you train and educate your managers on what type of training is going to work best for their teams. And finally, I can't wait to talk to you about the next generation that's coming after Generation Z, which is Generation Alpha. Please reach out to me if you have any questions. Follow me on LinkedIn and Twitter. And thank you for this opportunity.